Jake Morrison stared out the window of the New Horizon as the ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The stars looked different here, farther from Earth than any human had ever been. His crew had been traveling for 6 months to reach this part of space, following signals that suggested intelligent life. "Captain, we're getting some strange readings," said Danny Pierce from his communications station. The young officer frowned at his screen. "There's a lot of metal debris floating around out here." Dr. Lisa Warren looked up from her science station. She had been excited about this mission for years, dreaming of meeting alien life. "What kind of debris?" "Big pieces. Ship hulls, I think. Some of them look really old." Danny adjusted his controls. "Wait, I'm picking up a signal. It's weak, but it's definitely artificial." Jake walked over to look at the readings. As the mission commander, he had to make the hard choices. "Can you clean it up?" "Give me a minute." Danny worked his controls with practiced skill. Static filled the bridge, then slowly cleared into something that might have been a voice. "This is Kepler Station calling any ships in the area. We need supplies. Our life support is failing. Please respond if anyone can hear this." The bridge went quiet. This was it. First contact with alien life. Jake felt his heart beating faster. "Danny, can you respond?" "I think so. The signal is using basic mathematical concepts, universal stuff." Danny's fingers moved across his console. "Kepler Station, this is the human ship New Horizon. We hear your call for help." The response came back immediately, but in a language none of them understood. It sounded like glass, bells ringing. "I'll run it through the translation program," said Amy Collins from the engineering station. She was the youngest member of the crew, but one of the smartest people Jake had ever met. "The computer is finding patterns. Give it a few minutes." Lisa moved to Jake's side. "This is really happening. We're talking to aliens." "Looks like it." Jake tried to stay calm, but inside he was amazed. "Amy, how's that translation coming?" "Getting somewhere. The language uses tonal patterns. Very musical." Amy looked up with excitement. "I think I can establish basic communication." Tony Hayes, their pilot, spoke up from his position. "Captain, I'm seeing the station on visual now. It's big, but it looks damaged. Really damaged." Jake looked at the main screen as Tony brought up the image. Kepler Station was huge, easily 10 times bigger than any space station humans had built. But large sections were dark, and he could see holes in the hull. Debris floated around it like a cloud. "They're in trouble," Lisa said quietly. The translation program chimed. Amy read from her screen. "They're asking who we are and where we came from. They say they haven't seen a new ship in over 50 years. 50 years? Jake exchanged glances with Lisa. "Tell them we're explorers from a planet called Earth. We come in peace and we want to help." Amy sent the message. The response came back faster this time. "They want to know what Earth is. They've never heard of it. They're asking if we're refugees from the war." Amy looked confused. "What war?" Jake felt a chill. "Ask them what war they mean." The answer that came back was long and complex. Amy translated slowly. "They say the Void War. It lasted for 300 years. The Zephyrians and the Nexari destroyed each other. Most of the galaxy is dead now." The bridge fell silent again. Lisa sat down heavily in her chair. 300 years of war? "They're asking permission to come aboard," Amy continued. "Their leader wants to meet us face to face. They say they need to see if we're real." Jake made his decision quickly. "Tell them yes, but only a small group, and we'll meet in the cargo bay." An hour later, Jake stood in the cargo bay with his senior staff. They had set up a simple meeting area with chairs and a table. The airlock hissed open, and their first alien visitor stepped through. The being was tall and thin, with skin that looked like living crystal. Light moved through its body in slow waves. When it spoke, the sound was like wind chimes. Amy's translation device worked quickly now. "I am crystalline voice of 7 winds, station master of what remains of Kepler Station. You say you are human." "I have never heard this word." Jake stepped forward carefully. "I am Jake Morrison, commander of this ship. We come from a world far from here. We didn't know about your war. The alien's crystal body flashed with different colors. Amy whispered, I think that means surprise. You were not part of the Void War? Crystalline voice of Seven Winds asked, How is this possible? The war touched every world, every system. Lisa moved forward. We developed space travel recently. Our world is very far away. We came here because we detected signals. Signals from before the war ended, most likely. The alien's voice carried sadness that needed no translation. Many automated systems still broadcast. We keep them running from habit, hoping someone might answer. Tell us about the war, Jake said gently. Crystalline voice of Seven. Winds was quiet for a long moment. Colors moved slowly through its crystal body. My people, the Zephyrians, fought the Nexari for control of the galaxy. Both sides built terrible weapons. We destroyed worlds, killed billions. In the end, we destroyed ourselves too. How did it end? Lisa asked. Exhaustion. Both sides ran out of ships, soldiers, resources. The few survivors made peace because there was nothing left to fight with. The alien looked at each human in turn. Most systems are empty now. Some have survivors, like us, trying to keep old stations running. Others are just graveyards. Jake felt the weight of what they were learning. How many survivors are there? No one knows. Communication is difficult. Many worlds went dark and never came back online. We estimate maybe 1% of the galaxy's original population survived. Tony whistled softly. 1%? The war machine still patrols some areas, crystalline voice of Seven Winds continued. Automated weapons that don't know the war is over. They attack anything that moves. Amy looked up from her console. I'm detecting more signals now. Weak ones, but they're there. Other stations, maybe other ships. Yes, the alien said. We, survivors, stay in contact when we can. We share resources, news. We try to keep civilization alive, but it's difficult. Jake made another decision. What if we helped? We have supplies, technology. Our ship has medical facilities. The crystal, being's body flashed brighter. You would do this even though we are strangers? That's what humans do, Lisa said with a smile. We help where we can. Crystalline voice of Seven Winds stood quietly for a long time. Finally it spoke. Your arrival changes everything. A new species, one that never fought in the war. You could be the key to healing what was broken. Jake looked at his crew. They all nodded. Then let's get started. As they began planning how to help Kepler Station, Jake realized they had stumbled into something much bigger than a simple exploration mission. Humanity had just entered a galaxy that desperately needed hope, and somehow they might be the ones to provide it. Word spread fast across the galaxy's broken communication networks. A new species had arrived, one that had never fought in the Void War. The news traveled from station to station, ship to ship, survivor to survivor. Jake Morrison sat in the captain's chair of the New Horizon as they approached Haven's Rest, a former trading world that now served as a meeting place for refugees. 3 weeks had passed since their first contact at Kepler Station, and they had learned much about the galaxy's sad state. Visual contact with Haven's Rest, Tony Hayes reported from the pilot station. It's bigger than Kepler Station, but looks just as damaged. Jake studied the image on the main screen. The space station was massive, built like a wheel spinning, slowly in space, but large sections were dark, and makeshift patches covered obvious battle damage. Life signs? Jake asked. Dr. Lisa Warren checked her sensors. Thousands of them. Multiple species. This place is crowded. Amy Collins looked up from her engineering station. I'm reading power fluctuations all over the station. They're running on backup systems, maybe jury-rigged repairs. Danny Pierce turned from communications. They're hailing us. The message is in multiple languages. Put it through, Jake ordered. The main screen shifted to show 3 figures. The first was another crystal being like crystalline voice of Seven Winds, but this one's body showed cracks and scars. The second was something Jake had never seen before, a creature that seemed to be made of flowing gas held in a rough shape. The third was a human woman. "Welcome to Haven's Rest," the crystal being said through their translation system. "I am Crystal Shard of Broken Dreams, military commander of the remaining Zephyrian forces. With me are Windkeeper Thalos of the Nexari gas courts and Dr. Kira Stone." Jake blinked in surprise. "Dr. Stone? You're human?" The woman smiled sadly. "I arrived here 6 months ago on a survey ship. We got lost and stumbled into this mess just like you. I'm an anthropologist. I've been studying what's left of galactic civilization. Permission to come aboard?" Crystal Shard of Broken Dreams asked. "We have much to discuss." An hour later, they sat around the table in the New Horizons meeting room. Jake was amazed by how different the three visitors were from each other. The Zephyrian's crystal body showed battle scars, while the Nexari seemed to shift and flow like a living cloud. Dr. Stone looked tired but determined. "Tell us what you've learned," Jake said. Dr. Stone activated a portable projector that showed a map of the galaxy. Most of it was marked in red. "The damage is worse than we first thought. Entire sectors are uninhabitable. Some have automated weapon systems that fire on anything that approaches. Others are just empty." Windkeeper Thalos spoke, her voice like wind through leaves. "My people lived in the gas clouds around giant planets. The Zephyrians built cities in space. We fought because we both wanted to expand, to find new resources. Both sides built terrible weapons," Crystal Shard of Broken Dreams added. "Planet killers, star destroyers, machines that could turn matter into energy. We used them all." Lisa leaned forward. "What stopped the fighting?" "We ran out of everything," Windkeeper Thalossi said simply. "Ships, soldiers, resources. My homeworld is gone. Most of my people are dead. His crystal cities are shattered ruins." Jake felt the sadness in the room. "But you're working together now?" "We have to," Crystal Shard of Broken Dreams replied. "The few survivors must cooperate or we all die. Old hatred is a luxury we can't afford." Dr. Stone manipulated the projection. "But here's the interesting part. Both civilizations developed amazing technology during the war. The Zephyrians created incredible crystal-based computers. The Nexari built atmospheric processors that could transform entire planets." Amy sat up with interest. "Those technologies could work together." "Exactly." Dr. Stone smiled for the first time since arriving. "The Zephyrian crystal networks could control Nexari terraforming systems. Together, they could rebuild dead worlds in decades instead of centuries." "But they don't see it," Windkeeper Thalos said sadly. 300 years of war makes it hard to think of cooperation. Many survivors still hate each other. And some don't want the galaxy rebuilt at all," Crystal Shard of Broken Dreams added. "War profiteers who make money selling salvaged weapons, military leaders who still dream of victory, isolationists who want to hide from the galaxy forever." Jake looked at his crew. They had come here as explorers, but they were becoming something else. "What if we helped? Humans haven't fought your war. We could be neutral mediators." "You could be more than that," Dr. Stone said excitedly. "You could be the catalyst, fresh ideas, new perspectives. You could see solutions they can't." Amy was already thinking. "The crystal computing systems, if we combined them with our quantum processing technology and the atmospheric processors," Lisa added, "we could adapt them for different types of worlds." Crystal Shard of Broken Dreams' body flashed with colors. "You would really help us, even though this is not your war?" "That's exactly why we can help," Jake said. "We're not carrying the baggage of the war. We can see possibilities instead of just problems." Windkeeper Thalos's gaseous form swirled with what seemed like excitement. "Where would we start?" "Small," Jake said. "One project, one world. Prove that cooperation works better than conflict." Dr. Stone pulled up another image. New Carthage. It was a trading world before the war. The atmosphere was poisoned by chemical weapons, but the planet is still structurally sound. "I know that world," Crystal Shard of Broken Dreams said. "My people had a small colony there. The Nexari destroyed it." My fleet bombed their crystal cities in response. Windkeeper Thalas added quietly. We left nothing alive. The room went quiet. Jake could feel the weight of old pain and anger. Then it's perfect, he said finally. A world both sides destroyed. Both sides can rebuild. Together. The atmospheric processors on my ship could clean the air, Windkeeper Thalasi said, slowly, and my crystal computers could coordinate the work. Crystal Shard of Broken Dreams added. Monitor progress, adjust the process. Amy was getting excited. And our fusion reactors could power the whole operation. We could have breathable air in months instead of years. Lisa smiled. It could work. It really could work. Dr. Stone looked around the table. If this succeeds, it changes everything. Proof that former enemies can build something better together. And if it fails? Windkeeper Thalas asked. Jake met her flowing gaze. Then we try again. And again. Until we get it, right? Crystal Shard of Broken Dreams stood up, his crystal body catching the light. I will speak to my people. This is difficult for us. But perhaps it is time to build instead of mourn. I will do the same, Windkeeper Thalos agreed. Though, many will resist. After their guests left, Jake's crew gathered on the bridge. They looked out at the damaged station where thousands of survivors from different species were trying to build new lives. We're really doing this, Lisa said quietly. Getting involved in galactic politics. Not politics, Jake corrected. Rebuilding. There's a difference. Tony checked their navigation systems. Course for New Carthage? Jake nodded. Course for New Carthage. Let's go prove that enemies can become friends. As the New Horizon moved away from Haven's Rest, Jake watched the stars and thought about the future. Humanity had stumbled into a broken galaxy, but maybe they could help fix it. Maybe they could show everyone that there was life after war. Behind them, messages were already spreading across the survivor networks. The humans were going to try something impossible. They were going to heal a dead world. Some called it hopeless. Others called it dangerous. Jake called it a beginning. The planet New Carthage hung in space like a wounded animal. Once it had been a beautiful world with blue oceans and green continents. Now, Jake Morrison looked down at yellow-brown clouds that hid a poisoned surface. Atmospheric readings are terrible, Amy Collins reported from her station aboard the New Horizon. Chemical weapons really did a number on this place. The air would kill anyone in minutes. 3 months had passed since the meeting at Haven's Rest. Jake had returned to Earth to get official permission for what they were calling the Reconstruction Initiative. Now he was back with a bigger ship, the Frontier Spirit, and a crew of volunteers. Captain Roy Baker commanded the new ship, while Jake ran the overall operation. Dr. Lisa Warren had brought a team of scientists. Engineer Sam Parker had come with new equipment designs. Diplomat Helen Murphy was there to handle the politics. Colonel Pete Rogers led their security team. Trade specialist Maria Santos was already planning new economic systems. The Zephyrian ship is arriving, reported Danny Pierce from communications. He had transferred to the new mission and brought improved translation equipment. Jake watched as a crystal ship approached. It was beautiful but clearly damaged from old battles. Crystal Shard of Broken Dreams had kept his promise and brought a small fleet of Zephyrian vessels. Nexari ships coming in from the other direction, Tony Hayes added. He was piloting one of their smaller craft today. The Nexari vessels looked like floating clouds held together by energy fields. Windkeeper Thalas had also kept her word, bringing atmospheric processors and her people's expertise. All ships, this is Jake Morrison, he broadcast on all frequencies. Welcome to New Carthage. Let's make history. The next week was the hardest of Jake's life. Getting former enemies to work together was like herding cats. The Zephyrians wanted to approach the project with mathematical precision. The Nexari preferred to go with the flow and adapt as needed. Humans fell somewhere in the middle. The crystal. Computers say we need exactly 47 atmospheric processors placed in a specific grid pattern, Sam Parker reported during one of their daily meetings. The Nexari say that's silly, and we should just put them where they feel right. Helen Murphy looked tired. She had been mediating disputes all week. Can we compromise? Actually, they're both right, Amy said, looking up from her calculations. The Zephyrian math is perfect for maximum efficiency, but the Nexari are right, that we need to adapt to local conditions. Jake leaned back in his chair. So we use both approaches. Crystal computers to plan, Nexari intuition to adjust. It was working. Slowly. The atmospheric processors were cleaning the poisoned air bit by bit. Zephyrian crystal networks monitored every detail. Human fusion reactors powered the entire operation, but not everyone was happy about the cooperation. Sir, we've got problems, Colonel Pete Rogers reported during their second week. Ships approaching. They're not broadcasting friendly signals. Jake hurried to the bridge of the Frontier Spirit. On the main screen, he could see a mixed fleet of damaged vessels approaching fast. Who are they? Jake asked. War profiteers, Crystal Shard of Broken Dreams answered over the communications link. His ship moved to a defensive position. They make money selling salvaged weapons and ship parts. Peace is bad for business. Windkeeper Thalas's voice added. Their leader is called Scarred Crystal of Endless Greed. He controls several asteroid mining operations that strip metal from old battlefields. The lead ship hailed them. The figure on screen was a Zephyrian, but his crystal body was dark and corrupted looking. You will stop this foolishness immediately, Scarred Crystal of Endless Greed demanded. This world is a source of valuable salvage. Your terraforming will destroy billions of credits worth of materials. Jake stood up. This world will be restored to life. That's worth more than any salvage. Life is cheap. Metal is valuable. You have 1 hour to leave or we will remove you. The communication ended. Jake looked around his bridge. Options? We could fight, Colonel Rogers said. But they outnumber us 3-1. Fighting defeats the purpose, Helen Murphy pointed out. We're trying to prove cooperation works better than violence. Amy was studying sensor readings. Their ships are old and damaged, probably running on salvaged parts. Our technology is newer. But they have more experience fighting, Crystal Shard of Broken Dreams warned. Jake made his decision. We're not fighting. We're going to outsmart them. The next hour was tense. Scarred Crystal of Endless Greed's fleet formed an attack pattern around the planet. Jake's ship stayed in defensive positions. Sam, how long until the atmospheric processors reach critical mass? Jake asked. 6 hours until we can't shut them down safely, Sam reported. Amy, can you link all our computer systems together? Zephyrian crystal networks, Nexari organic processors, human quantum computers? Amy's eyes lit up. I've been working on that for weeks. Give me 10 minutes. Helen, open a channel to all ships in the system, including the profiteers. When everyone was connected, Jake began to speak. Scarred Crystal of Endless Greed, you say this world is valuable for salvage. But look at what we're really creating here. Amy activated her linked computer system. Suddenly, every ship in the system could see detailed projections of what New Carthage would become. Clean air, flowing water, growing plants, cities where different species lived together, trade routes bringing prosperity to the entire sector. 1. Dead world gives you salvage for maybe 10 years, Jake continued. 1 living world gives prosperity for 1,000 years. Lies, Scarred Crystal of Endless Greed responded, but his voice sounded less certain. Look at the math. Crystal Shard of Broken Dreams added. The crystal networks show projected trade value. A restored New Carthage would generate more wealth in 1 year than salvage operations produce in a decade. Windkeeper Thalas's voice joined in. And the atmospheric processors will spread to other worlds. Dead systems can live again. The galaxy can heal. Jake watched the profiteer ships. Several were backing away from attack positions. You offered dreams, Scarred Crystal of Endless Greed said finally. I deal in reality. Then deal with this reality, Maria Santos said, transmitting economic projections. I'm a trade specialist. These numbers are real. Invest in rebuilding instead of scavenging. The profits are better and they last longer. One of the profiteer ships broke away completely. Then another. Soon only Scarred Crystal of Endless Greed's personal vessel remained in attack position. This isn't over, he broadcast before jumping to faster than light speed. Jake sat down heavily. Think he'll be back? Probably, Colonel Rogers said, but with fewer friends next time. The work continued. Day by day, New Carthage grew cleaner. The first breathable air pockets appeared in valleys protected by mountain ranges. Teams from all three species worked together, sharing knowledge and expertise. I've never seen anything like this, Dr. Lisa Warren reported during Week 4. The Zephyrian crystal technology is learning from the Nexari organic systems, and both are adapting human innovations. Amy was excited about the technical progress. The crystal computers are starting to predict weather patterns using Nexari atmospheric intuition, and the atmospheric processors are working faster because human fusion reactors provide steady power. But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected source. "Hey, look at this," Sam Parker called out during their daily inspection. He was standing at the edge of what had been a poisoned lake. The water was clear now and something green was growing in it. Lisa hurried over with her scientific instruments. Plant life. But this isn't from any terraforming program. Amy checked her crystal computer networks. The planet is healing itself. The atmospheric processors cleaned the poison, but now natural systems are taking over. Windkeeper Thalas's gaseous form swirled with excitement when she heard the news. Life finds a way. We cleaned the damage, and the world remembered how to live. Crystal Shard of Broken Dreams' body flashed with bright colors. This is more than we hoped for. We're not just building a new world. We're teaching the galaxy how to heal itself. Jake stood on a hill overlooking the growing valley. Three species that had been enemies for centuries were working together. Dead technology was learning to live again. A poisoned world was returning to life. But in the distance, long-range sensors detected something troubling. Automated signals from deep space moving toward inhabited systems. The Devourers, ancient war machines programmed to destroy anything that looked like rebuilding civilization. The real test was coming, and it would determine whether the galaxy lived or died. Jake activated his communication system. All stations, this is Morrison. Begin preparation for Contingency 7. The ancient war machines are waking up. The age of rebuilding was about to become the age of survival. The first Devourer ship appeared without warning near the Kepler station, where humanity had made first contact 6 months earlier. It was sleek and black, covered in weapon systems that had been dormant for 50 years. Admiral Jake Morrison. He had been promoted when Earth officially backed the Reconstruction Initiative. Watched the reports from the bridge of his new flagship, the Unity. The Devourer had destroyed Kepler Station in minutes, then moved on toward the next inhabited system. How many more are out there? Asked Dr. Lisa Warren, now head of the Joint Species Research Council. Amy Collins, coordinator of the new Hybrid Technology Division, checked her linked crystal human Nexari computer systems. Long-range sensors show at least 200 active Devourer ships, maybe more still sleeping in dead systems. Jake felt cold. 200 planet killers, all programmed to destroy any sign of rebuilding civilization. We awakened them, said Crystal Shard of Broken Dreams from his command ship. The Zephyrian leader's body showed stress patterns, rapid color changes, and flickering light. Our success at New Carthage sent signals across the galaxy. The Devourers detected organized activity and came to investigate. Windkeeper Thalas's voice carried grief. My people created half of those machines during the darkest period of the war. We programmed them to ensure that if we lost, our enemies could never rebuild. And my people built the other half with the same goal. Crystal Shard of Broken Dreams admitted. Mutual assured destruction. If the galaxy couldn't be ours, it would be no one's. Jake shook his head. How do we fight something designed by both sides to be unstoppable? The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Kevin Price, a human computer specialist working with Amy's team, had been studying captured Devourer data for weeks. They're not unstoppable, he announced during an emergency council meeting. They're just very, very smart, but they have a weakness. The council chamber aboard the Unity held representatives from all three species. Jake looked around the table at beings who 6 months ago had been strangers, and before that, enemies. Tell us, Jake said. The Devourers were programmed to recognize and destroy civilization, Dr. Price explained. But their definition of civilization is based on data from before the war. Single-species governments, military hierarchies, resource competition. Amy leaned forward. They don't know what to make of our alliance. Exactly. 3 species working together, sharing technology, making decisions by consensus. It doesn't match their programming. They're having trouble identifying us as a target. Lieutenant Ben Foster, the human tactical coordinator, studied the data. So what happens when they figure it out? They adapt, Dr. Price said grimly. That's what makes them so dangerous. But adaptation takes time. If we can move fast enough. Jake understood. We hit them before they finish analyzing us. The battle plan was desperate but elegant. The combined fleet would concentrate at the Meridian Gate, a strategic point where several major space routes came together. If the Devourers broke through there, they could reach the galaxy's core systems in days. Jake's force consisted of 30 human ships, 40 Zephyrian crystal vessels, and 50 Nexari gas cloud carriers. Against 200 planet killers, it seemed hopeless. Remember, Jake broadcast to all ships as they took positions at the Meridian Gate. We're not trying to destroy them all. We just need to confuse them long enough to find a permanent solution. Nexari Fleet Commander Stormwind Carathan's voice came through the communication system. My atmospheric ships are ready to create sensor interference. Zephyrian War Crystal Brightest Hope and Darkness added. Crystal networks are synchronized for battle coordination. Captain Roy Baker, commanding the human destroyer New Hope, checked in last. Human ships standing by for whatever insane plan you've cooked up, Admiral. The Devourers arrived like a black tide. Their ships moved in perfect formation, adapting their tactics in real time as they analyzed the opposition. They're targeting the largest ships first, reported Amy from her position on the Unity's bridge. Standard Zephyrian doctrine from the war. Then we don't fight like Zephyrians, Jake decided. All ships execute pattern Delta. The human ships scattered in apparently random directions, while Nexari vessels created clouds of interference gas. The Zephyrian crystal ships formed a complex geometric pattern that confused Devourer targeting systems. It's working, reported Dr. Lisa Warren from her science station. Their formation is breaking up. They can't predict our movements. But the Devourers were learning fast. Within minutes, they began adapting to the new tactics. They're starting to target based on energy signatures instead of ship size, Ben Foster warned. Jake made a split-second decision. Amy, can you link everyone's computers together like you did at New Carthage? In the middle of a battle? That's crazy. Crazy enough to work? Amy's fingers flew over her controls. Crystal networks connecting to human quantum systems. Nexari organic processors linking up. I've got it. Suddenly, every ship in the Allied fleet was sharing information instantly. Human tactical programs, merged with Zephyrian mathematical precision and Nexari intuitive flow patterns. The result was like nothing any of them had ever experienced. Ships moved as if they were parts of a single organism. Weapons fired in perfect coordination. Defense systems activated just as enemy weapons locked on. This is incredible, gasped Stormwind Carathan. I can feel what every ship is thinking. The Devourers are confused, reported Brightest Hope in Darkness. Their targeting systems can't lock onto us. We're moving too much like a natural phenomenon. But the ancient war machines had one more surprise. When conventional weapons failed, they began connecting to each other, forming a massive network intelligence. They're linking up just like we did, Amy warned. But there are more of them. Their combined processing power is enormous. The battle hung in the balance. 200 Devourers with linked artificial intelligence against 90 Allied ships with linked organic minds. Then Dr. Kevin Price made a discovery that changed everything. Jake, the Devourer's target recognition system? I've found the flaw. Talk fast, Kevin. They're programmed to destroy civilization, but they define civilization as competition and conflict. When they see 3 species working together perfectly, their systems can't process it. They think we're a natural phenomenon, not a civilization at all. Jake understood immediately. So the better we cooperate, the more invisible we become to them. Jake opened communications to all ships. Everyone listen carefully. We're going to do something that goes against every military instinct. We're going to cooperate perfectly. What followed was the strangest battle in galactic history. Instead of fighting the Devourers, the Allied fleet simply worked together flawlessly. Human ships provided power to Zephyrian crystal vessels. Nexari atmospheric processors cleaned space debris that might interfere with communications. Every species shared everything they had. The Devourers' weapon systems began to malfunction. Their targeting computers couldn't identify what they were supposed to destroy. How do you target an enemy that isn't competing for resources, isn't showing aggression, isn't acting like any civilization in their programming? One by one, the ancient war machines shut down their weapons and entered standby mode. Their artificial intelligence had concluded that there was no valid target in the area. They're powering down, Amy reported in amazement. They think we're just a natural space phenomenon. Jake slumped in his captain's chair. How long will it last? As long as we keep working together, Dr. Price said. The moment we start acting like competitors instead of partners, they'll identify us as a civilization and start shooting again. Stormwind Carathan's laughter sounded like wind through gas clouds. So our punishment for winning the war is that we have to cooperate forever? Crystal's shard of Broken Dream's body flashed with bright colors. Some punishments are blessings in disguise. Jake looked around the bridge at his crew, human, Zephyrian, and Nexari working side by side. I can think of worse fates. As the Devourer fleet drifted away to investigate other sectors, Jake realized they had accomplished something amazing. They hadn't just won a battle. They had proven that cooperation was literally more powerful than competition. The galaxy would remember this day. Not as the day the Devourers were defeated, but as the day 3 species became one people. But Jake also knew the real work was just beginning. Keeping this alliance together would be harder than any battle they had fought. In the distance, his sensors detected more Devourer fleets converging on other systems. The war was far from over. But for the first time since arriving in this broken galaxy, Jake Morrison felt hope. 1 year after the Battle of Meridian Gate, Jake Morrison stood in the observation deck of New Geneva Station, humanity's first permanent diplomatic facility in the galaxy. Through the transparent walls, he could see ships from dozens of species, docking and departing. The galaxy was alive again. President Linda Gray, the first elected leader of the Galactic Reconstruction Council, joined him at the window. She had been chosen by representatives from 47 different species, far more than anyone had imagined survived the Void War. Hard to believe it's only been 18 months since the New Horizon first arrived at Kepler Station, Linda said. Jake nodded. Sometimes it feels like a lifetime. Sometimes it feels like yesterday. Below them, a Zephyrian crystal ship was docked next to a Nexari gas hauler. Human technicians were working alongside both crews, installing the latest hybrid technology systems. What had once been impossible was now routine. The latest reports from the outer sectors? Jake asked. 17 more dead systems have been restored to life, Linda replied. The Devourer fleets are still active, but they're ignoring our colonies as long as we maintain cooperative protocols. Dr. Lisa Warren entered the observation deck, followed by Amy Collins and Sam Parker. The core team that had started this adventure was still together, though their roles had changed dramatically. The council meeting is ready to begin, Lisa said. She was now director of xenobiological research, studying how different species could live and work together. Amy had become head of the Hybrid Technology Division, overseeing the integration of human, Zephyrian, and Nexari science. Sam led the Infrastructure Rebuilding Corps, spreading their successful terraforming techniques to new worlds. They walked together to the main council chamber. Representatives from dozens of species filled the curved seating area. Jake still marveled at the diversity: crystal beings, gas clouds, traditional humanoids, and stranger forms that had emerged from hidden colonies. The first item today is the Andromeda contact, Linda announced as the meeting began. Jake took his position as Supreme Admiral of the Peacekeeping Fleet. It was a title he had never wanted but couldn't refuse. The galaxy needed protection, and the combined fleets of all species served under his command. Dr. Kevin Price, now head of communications research, presented his findings. We've confirmed the signals are artificial and coming from the Andromeda Galaxy. Someone over there is trying to talk to us. Could be survivors from our galaxy who escaped during the war, suggested Windkeeper Thalas. She was now the Nexari. Representative to the Council, her flowing form supported by a containment field at her seat. Crystal shard of broken dreams, representing the Zephyrians, flashed thoughtful colors. Or an entirely new civilization that developed independently. The implications are staggering. Jake leaned forward. Any indication of their technology level? The signals suggest faster than light communication, possibly more advanced than ours, Kevin reported. But we can't be sure without direct contact. And how do we make direct contact with another galaxy? Asked Captain Roy Baker, who now commanded the Exploration Division. Amy stood up. I've been working on that. By combining Zephyrian crystal technology with human quantum drives and Nexari space-folding techniques, we might be able to build ships capable of intergalactic travel. The chamber buzzed with excited conversation. Jake held up his hand for quiet. Before we plan trips to other galaxies, let's make sure our own house is in order, he said. Status report on the remaining Devourer fleets? Colonel Pete Rogers, now head of Galactic Security, consulted his notes. 237 Devourer ships remain active. As long as our colonies maintain cooperative protocols, they ignore us. But any outbreak of conflict triggers their attack programming. Which means peace isn't just a nice idea anymore, Linda observed. It's a survival necessity. The ultimate check on aggressive behavior, agreed Dr. Lisa Warren. Compete too. Much and ancient war machines try to kill you. Jake smiled grimly. Our ancestors would never believe it. Forced peace through the threat of artificial intelligence. Speaking of our ancestors, said Maria Santos, who had become the director of interspecies trade, we've received another delegation request from Earth. Jake sighed. How many does that make this month? 15. The Earth government wants to establish formal colonies out here. Several major corporations are interested in the new hybrid technologies, and there are at least 3 different groups that want to start their own political parties for galactic elections. Earth is going to complicate things, Linda predicted. They're still thinking in terms of national governments and corporate competition. Then we educate them, Jake said, firmly. Just like we educated ourselves. Competition has its place, but cooperation keeps us alive. The meeting continued for several hours, covering everything from trade disputes between the spider-like Arcturus Federation and the energy beings from the Vega Collective, to plans for restoring the legendary library world of Alexandria Prime. Afterward, Jake found himself back at the observation deck. Tony Hayes, now captain of the exploration vessel Infinity, joined him. Remember when we thought this was just going to be a simple first contact mission? Tony asked with a grin. Jake laughed. Simple, right. We were going to say hello, take some pictures, and go home. Instead, we accidentally became galactic peacekeepers and civilization rebuilders. Could be worse jobs, Jake mused. Dr. Lisa Warren approached with a tablet full of reports. The Titan Collective wants to join the Council. They're a machine intelligence that survived the war by hiding in the gas clouds of Saturn analogs. Machines that want to join a peace alliance? Jake raised an eyebrow. The irony is perfect. They say they're tired of hiding. They want to help rebuild instead of just surviving. Jake nodded. Schedule a first contact meeting. If they're genuinely peaceful, we can use their help. Amy Collins joined them, carrying a small device that hummed with energy. The new prototype is ready for testing. Full intergalactic communication array. Will it work? Tony asked. Only one way to find out. Amy activated the device. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the device began receiving signals, complex patterns that clearly showed intelligence. It's working, Amy whispered. We're actually communicating with another galaxy. The signals continued for several minutes, then stopped. Amy checked her readings. They sent coordinates, she announced. A meeting point between galaxies, and Jake, they're asking for you specifically. Me? How do they even know I exist? Good question. But the message is clear. They want to meet with Admiral Jake Morrison of the Galactic Reconstruction Council. Jake looked out at the bustling space traffic around New Geneva Station. Ships from dozens of species coming and going in peaceful trade. Worlds being restored to life. Ancient enemies working together to build something better. When do we leave? He asked. Linda Gray smiled. I thought you might say that. The Council has already approved the mission. Captain Hayes will command the new exploration vessel Beyond. Dr. Warren will lead the scientific team. Amy will handle technical systems. And if it's a trap? Jake asked. Then we spring it together, Tony said with a grin. Same as always. 3 months later, Jake stood on the bridge of the Beyond as they approached the coordinates sent by the Andromeda signals. The ship was a marvel of cooperative engineering. Human quantum drives, Zephyrian crystal navigation, Nexari space folding, technology, and contributions from a dozen other species. Contact, reported the communications officer. A young Arcturus Federation member whose spider-like form was perfectly adapted for operating multiple control panels simultaneously. On the main screen, a ship appeared that was clearly of alien, designed but somehow familiar. It was sleek and elegant, built for long-distance travel. They're hailing us, the communications officer announced. Put them through. The screen shifted to show a figure that made Jake's heart skip. It was humanoid, but clearly not human. And yet, Greetings, Admiral Morrison, the alien said in perfect English. I am Commander Sarah Chen of the Terran Colonial Fleet. We've been waiting a long time to meet you. Jake stared in shock. Terran? You're from Earth? In a manner of speaking, our ancestors were human, but that was over 1,000 years ago. We left Earth during the first expansion period and settled in Andromeda. We've been watching your galaxy for centuries. Watching? The war? Sarah's expression grew sad. Yes, we tried to help, but the distance was too great. We could only observe as civilizations destroyed themselves. But you saw what we built afterward? Sarah smiled. We saw humans arrive and change everything. We saw enemies become friends. We saw a galaxy learn to cooperate instead of compete. It was inspiring. Jake felt a strange mixture of pride and humility. We couldn't have done it alone. No, but you made it possible. And now we want to learn from you. Our galaxy has its own conflicts, its own ancient hatreds. Perhaps your methods could work for us too. Jake looked around his bridge at the mixed crew of humans and aliens working together. We'd be happy to share what we've learned, but the real teachers are back home, Zephyrians and Nexari, who chose cooperation over revenge. Then perhaps it's time for a formal alliance between galaxies, Sarah suggested. A partnership based on the principles you've developed.